What about, like, my experience was when I was in middle school, I was in a lunch line, and these guys came up to me, and they were like, you know, you dirty Mexican, why don't you go back to Mexico? You know, it wasn't like they were saying.
Right, not subtle at all.
No.
Right there on its
directly.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked what Artra said about whether or not you internalize it. And I think in some ways, I'm just really impressed that what you said about, it's not about me, I can't change the color of my skin. Because really what you're saying is that preconception is totally about the person who has it and has nothing to do with you. And even though that's a really great way to feel, it's hard. It's a really challenging place to get, because if you get message after message after message that you are less than, you are not okay, you are other, you don't belong here, that sort of thing, it's really easy to start internalizing that. And so that leads to, on an individual level, it leads to a lot of self-doubt. I loved what Amanda spoke about in the video around rejection of community. Like sometimes I remember growing up, and right around when I was like 9 years old, I just wanted to speak English at home. I didn't want to speak my native language anymore. I didn't want to have anything to do. I didn't want to be different. I was tired of being different from everyone else.
That's what's happening in my Hispanic community.
Yeah, yeah. And it's understandable, because what everyone has been hearing from the dominant culture is like, there's something wrong with you.
We want to fit in.
Yeah, and you want to fit in, and fitting in is okay, but like Amanda said in the video, is it at the expense of your own identity? And so when you start internalizing ugly ideas about yourself, it hurts you individually, and then it hurts a community at large. So when you start trying to do things like community organizing or building, you know, your own internal community, you start to believe all the things people are saying about you. And then it's destructive within a community setting. So then you have all these issues that we start seeing among communities of color, and it's a lot having to do with the internalized racism, the belief in the negative images that we've all been getting about ourselves, you know, and it takes a lot to start to heal from that. And I think one of the best things that communities of color can do for themselves and people of color can do is really focus on that internal healing, you know, just really validate one another and really create spaces where you feel safe and comfortable and that you feel like you can talk about this stuff. You know, race has become this taboo. Just like the word racist is not something you can say, we want to just pretend like race doesn't exist anymore. Or that it doesn't impact anymore. And I genuinely believe, and the research shows, that that's totally the wrong way to go. Even though I think people are coming from a good place. I think a lot of people mean it in a good way when they say, I don't see race, or race doesn't matter to me.
Or I don't see color.
Or I don't see color, right. That whole myth of like, you can be colorblind, right? Why don't you ever hear anyone say, I didn't notice you were a girl. I don't see your gender. See, it's silly.
Yeah.
But we have this belief that we can pretend not to see race, right? And I think when people are saying that, we had a speaker, Dr. Shelley Touchluck, who came recently, and she said, when I used to say that, what I meant was, I don't want racism to be an issue between us. I don't want you to think that I feel differently about you because you're a different race than me. And that's a good thing, right? Unfortunately, in my job, we talk a lot about intent versus impact. The intent of what you mean to say and the impact it has on the person that you're talking to, and sometimes those don't match up. So the impact oftentimes, when I hear, oh, I didn't think that you were not white, or I don't see race, what I'm hearing is like, that part of you is something you need to get over. Like, oh, you've transcended your race, right? They talked about how, like, over the State of the Union, Chris Matthews said, I forgot that Obama was black for an hour. Well, what are you trying to say? A man who's articulate can't be black? Like, there's something wrong with his blackness that he covered up when he was being smart and driven and articulate and all that. So on the one hand, it's like, I don't see that part of you that there's something wrong with. And on the other hand, it's like erasing your identity. I'm proud. I am proud of where I am from.
You should be.
And that has so much to do with who I am. I don't want you not to see it. I just don't want you to think there's something wrong with me because of it.
And that's why I said that's why I think that everyone, you know, as a community, you know, we're multi everything. So I think that everyone should embrace the other culture. You know, try to bring it in, try to learn more about it instead of judging it off the bat. You know, to get to know the person. So you know, if we could make that change, it'll be a whole lot better for everyone.
I love that you brought that up, Bria, because I think you guys are in a school environment. Obviously, what you do, you learn for a living, right? This is what you do professionally. So what I would really love to see in schools, and I'd love to know your opinion, how is race handled in your classrooms? When you guys talk about racism, is it talked about like it's something that exists? Because when I was in school, and I'm not that much older than you guys, it was treated like it was that awful thing that happened back then. And isn't it great that we're over it?
It is, but
Yes.
I don't think it's very put in the curriculum like
Okay.
it could be.
So it's even kind of missing even.
It kind of is, but teachers making the effort, and I really like that. That's something to be really proud
Yeah,
of.
totally.
It may not be in a textbook a lot, and
Okay.
it may not be put in the curriculum.
So teachers have to bring other resources.
Teachers do,
Okay.
and teachers that aren't Black, teachers that are
Right.
Caucasian, they put it in, and they feel it's something important and worthwhile to be
That
discussed.
is excellent.
They try to
Has that
make-
been your experience?
Yeah, they try to make an effort to at least, experience it, to do a project with it, to teach even the wrongs and the rights. I mean, Black people, they went through a whole lot of stuff, but, sometimes they were wrong. They should have just, held their head high and, just went on. Even though sometimes it wasn't the case, it's just, they were so responsible, and so I commend them for what they did, because back in the day, because we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for them.
Sure.
So I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate the teachers that aren't the same ethnicity that I am that trying to teach it. There's some teachers I wish it was in textbooks more,
Sure.
because everyone needs to know, not just Blacks and whites. So
Sure. Yeah.
that's how I feel about that one.
How do you feel about maybe the history of your community represented in your classes, and is it represented, and if it is, how do you feel about how it's handled?
Well, we don't talk about mostly Hispanic community. We talk about the Alamo. That's as much Hispanic we talk about. But we talk a lot about the race riots here in Tulsa.
You do talk
We
about the race
that,
riot,
yeah.
and all of you have. See,
Yeah.
that's really interesting, because I did a survey when I first started
Black
of high
his-
school teachers to find out how many people were teaching about the race riot, and it was really low. It was amazingly low. So I'm glad to hear that you all had that as part of your classes.
We celebrated Black History Month here every day. Yeah, and well, I guess the Hispanic isn't out there so much because we're not discriminated due to our color skin, but mostly we're discriminated due to green card, or if we have, we're undocumented.
Right.
I think they should eliminate that, because even though that someone will call like a Mexican or a Latino alien, I think that just be formal about it. You don't necessarily just have to say, oh, you don't have your green card, you need to go
And
back.
they're just papers.
Yeah, so it's just
who
paper.
you are and
Yeah.
what you do.
I agree.
Personally, I think I don't think anyone has the right to say, well, this isn't where you belong, because Christopher Columbus, if I'm not mistaken, came here and it wasn't where he was originally from. Like, am I lying?
No. The original undocumented immigrant, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has the right to say, well, you don't belong here, go back to where you're from. I really don't
Because
believe
this was
that.
the Indians' land.
Archer and Bria,
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Archer and Bria, do you guys have an advice to our viewers who's been discriminated?
Well, don't let it get you down at all, because if someone has a problem with what you look like, that's their problem. It isn't yours. And you have to keep going and hold your head high and not retaliate in any sort of way, because that gives them what they were expecting or what they want from you. And it may fit into a stereotype that is related to your ethnicity.
Bria?
Just look over it, and just accept people for who they are, and just generally go on with your life, because they're gonna have that opinion about you, so just let them have their opinion and go on with your life.
Well, Bria and Archer, thank you so much for representing your school, and Mana, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it was TYT, and our topic for today was discrimination. So no more stereotyping. Don't judge a book by its cover. See you guys next time.